Hello and good evening. This is Grillenheimer. Thank you. They're moving on. This is about take 5. Originally had my sunglasses on, but I have to read my notes, such as it is. I mean, I know what they are, but I mean, you've already seen me in all my shortness, because I'm kind of a short guy. Anyway, but this is going to be short. And this is not about Transformers. I don't have any biblical verses tonight, which I wish I had. I know where I'm pulling this from. I do apologize. I didn't write any of that down. But this is a good refresher as far as, in a good way to look at the world we live in, what we are surrounded by, versus the opposite of that, righteousness, and how we can achieve righteousness, which is not easy, being imperfect people living in a broken world. I just feel like if I close my eyes aren't going to go cross-eyed, because I know where my camera is. It's hard to see, but whenever I do this, I'm looking at myself at the same time, so everything's flipped. As a result, my eyes just go nuts, and I've got to see an eye doctor. Anyway, this is basically about sin and the opposite of sin. I've done this 4 or 5 times. If the music in the background is Nights into Dreams Soft Museum by Sega. Thank you, Sega. Let me just turn it off. Now, sin. What is sin? Sin is unrighteousness. It separates us from God. He can't look upon sin. That's when Jesus truly was like only himself, was when God turned away from Christ at the moment of his death, when Christ did not allow the people to kill him, but he gave up his spirit and died willingly. In doing so, he eliminated our sin as the ultimate sacrifice. Now, and there's all kinds of sin, and I'm not going to go through all the sins again. Some of my older videos, I've done that. And, covetousness, theft, and drunkenness is sort of one of them. It's never really listed in the Bible. It's mentioned in the Bible. It is a behavior that can be detrimental. Sexual immorality, adultery, murder. There's lots of different sins. Lying is a simple sin, even though some say some sins are weighed differently. Some they're all the same, or they're all not. I'm not one to say that they are, but there are some Bible verses that kind of mention the different kinds of sin and how they're sort of weighed in a way. But that's not what I'm focusing on. What this is sin itself. Take my obsessions or your obsessions. I'm trying to slowly. I bought and charged a lot of crap in my 20s and 30s. I put myself in really bad debt. I'm trying to get rid of that stuff. That was greed. Not greed for money, greed for things. I was coveting things I didn't need and shouldn't have bought, but I enjoyed it while I had it. And there's always this sense of newness, always this sense of, ooh, the fresh and the smell and the opening and whatever, and the playing with the toys and the new games and the new movies, the smell of the wrapper, the whole 9 yards. The excitement of a package being sent to you, or a package being at the house, or a package coming to your desk at work, or a package, you know. There is a sense of anxiety for it. And of course, you know, as a good reminder, the good word tells us to not have anxieties for anything. So, you know, we don't need to put too much in things, in possessions that we just can't take with us. What are they doing over there? I'm not really sure. Anyway, I'm sorry. But sin, is temporary. The feeling is temporary, no matter what kind of sin it is, and it feeds on itself. Sin consumes itself. Sin wants to be done again. Once you get used to it, of a certain kind of sin, you want to do it again. That's how we have liars. That's how we have murderers. That's how we have thieves. That's how we have, what's the word? Rapists and pedophiles and all that other mess. It's just, you know, once the sin is done, you might feel guilty the first time, but then the next time you want to do it again. You want to feel whatever that sin is, whatever the excitement, the thrill, the risk of doing it, or getting caught, not getting caught, whatever the case may be, of these different flavors of sin, for lack of a better word. And once you start doing one, you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again, and it again, and again, and it can never get old. And it's like happiness. Happiness is temporary. Well, so is pleasure of sin, no matter what the sin. It's like a fire that has to be fed. It's a passion within us that can consume us, and we have to feel like we're feeding it. The best way to stop sin is to stop it. I did have a bit of a porn addiction myself, I'll admit. Not many guys, many girls do, but it was there years ago, and I kept trying to wean myself. I can't look at this stuff, and I just can't look at this stuff. You know, and I was even starting getting grossed out of some of the stuff I was looking at, and I finally, okay, I've got to stop. You have to just put a stop to it. Same goes with diet. With my diet, I mean, look at my videos from 5 and 6 years ago. I mean, I'll still eat a few things that I shouldn't, but for the most part, I have cut out a huge amount of my sodas. I drink almost nothing but water, unsweetened coffee. I have cut out a whole lot of sugar. Now, if I have a piece of chocolate, I gotta have another one. I have another chocolate, I gotta have another one. And it's another domino effect of sin. And again, it's a different flavor of sin. Gluttony, you know? And you just have to put a stop to it. And when it gets to a certain point, and especially if you lack the faith, it's really hard to just put it to a blunt stop, because you're using worldly ways of trying to stop an addiction that you don't know how to stop. If you don't have Christ in your heart, it can be extra hard. Yes, I said extra because I'm just that Southern, all right? I can get away with it. But it always... Yeah, I've pretty much covered that. Like feeding a fire, and it's consuming itself. Sin requires more sin. You always want to do it. And like what I was doing when I would buy toys and games and stuff, I had so much junk. If I bought something, I'd bring it home and put it in the mix. My wife didn't know the difference, and so I was hiding stuff in plain sight. and she almost didn't know at all. Uh, I mean, I was just that clever. And then she would ask a question, and I might tell a white lie. Well, I'd have to remember that white lie to tell another lie, and it comes in a domino effect. Same thing when I was a teenager, living with my parents. You tell them one lie, and you keep having to back up the lies, and once you tell the truth, they don't believe you. So be honest with yourself, be honest with your spouse, be honest with your kids, be honest with your parents. And where does that honesty come from? Is being honest with yourself. Did I mention God yet? No. You need to be honest with yourself and admit to yourself you're in the wrong. I've never been to an AA meeting, but I understand that is the first rule to getting any help, is admitting that you need help. Admitting the pride off on your shoulders has come down. Your head has been deflated, and you're like, help me. I need help. So that is part of this when trying to stop sin. And this can happen to Christians too. This sin and addictions and passions of this nature. It doesn't matter who you are or what walk of life you're in right now. It doesn't matter. It can happen to any of us, all of us, any time in our walk of life. And I know Christians that have issues with all sorts of sins and addictions and things, and that they don't want to mention, that they don't want to say, that you can just sort of look and you know what it is just by looking at them, or what they're wearing, or how they're speaking, or what they're buying, or their behavior. There's all sorts of little cues that you can notice with your friends in casual conversation, and you're in things that we see that we just don't say because we think it's rude and we think it's wrong. And sometimes sometimes we might need to pry open that little door and say, hey, so and so, I've known you a long time, you're my friend, you're my favorite aunt, you're my best nephew, whoever you know. Have you thought about being honest with yourself? Have you looked in the mirror? Have you opened your closet? Have you seen how many shoes you have, how many dresses you have, how many collection you have, etc. I've got a good friend of mine, and he had to move a lot of stuff, and he's noticing his collected sins as well, and his collection of junk. He's a father. We're about the same age, and he's got 2 kids, just like I have 2 kids. And he's come to a realization as well, as like, what were we thinking? Running to Walmart in the middle of the night, running to Toys R Us when they first opened to get these figures on opening night. I'm like, I don't know. We just were in the moment. We were wrapped up in emotion, wrapped up with anxiety, and wrapped up with gotta have it, and even with these Transformer cards, I mean, I've gotten some neat stuff, but I haven't been spending any of the money out of our joint account. I've been doing a PayPal account and selling some of my junk online, and I still have money in there. I'm not spending it all. Now, if I got the Energon thing or whatever, the anniversary, blah blah blah, the big blue cube, that would be an issue. And my PayPal money would be gone. But I'm like, I want it, but I don't need it. I'm not going to buy it. I'm having fun with what I've got. So I got those Omnibots, but they were like $2 a piece. No, not the Omni. They were some promo card, and they were like $2 a piece. I'm like, okay, $2 a card. That's less than a booster. I can handle that. But that's kind of where I stopped. And I'm enjoying that's why I even started creating new characters for that game. Is one, it was creative. Two, it was fun. It was energizing in itself and its creativity. And I added a slew of characters to this game. Just sticking this in this line of addictions and obsessions and sins, etc., etc. And y'all are wondering, well, are you paying attention to your family, to your kids? Yeah, I am. I'm just really busy. That's why I don't get to do videos all the time. I don't get to play the game a whole lot, etc., etc. But yeah, now the opposite of all this, and I did not mean to go this long. I've got to get some stuff at the drugstore. Feeding sins is like feeding a fire. Well, we need to feed something else. We need to feed to be able to rise up out of the sins that are pulling us down. They change our countenance. They can change our attitude. They can change our actions. What is the opposite? Having Christ in your heart. Worshiping Him, being joyous, in praise with a joyful noise, believing in God, believing in Jesus, and beginning that foundation. Beginning that foundation that you have love in your heart, you have love for your neighbors, you have love for yourself, you have love for your family, that you want to protect, that you want to harbor, you want to be with, and do whatever you can to feed them, clothe them, keep a roof over their head, having a decent job, and keeping your kids safe, your wife safe. The social climate is so screwed up right now, with being against toxic masculinity and all this other mess. I don't want to get into that mess, but there is something wrong when people are trying to tear down guys, tear down decent people, and tearing down a certain part one notch at a time in all sorts of different angles, just for the sake of division and dividing us as a unit, dividing us as a country, and labeling us and dividing us in all sorts of ways in the people that we are. There could be very well something devilish, demonic behind it all, which is also biblical. Something to think about. But we need to feed our righteousness. Feeding our righteousness is feeding our love of God, keeping Him first. When we keep Him first, I've said this time and time again, serving others is serving Him. And when we get our focus off of us and onto our loved ones and our neighbors and those around us, things change. Things really change. I have a little better relationship with my own neighbors. I won't go into specifics. I know most of their names. I don't know all their names. I apologize. Gotten to know them a little bit. I've helped them out. My kids are like, what are you doing? We don't like them. Why are you helping them? Because they need help. It's not like I don't like them. I love them. I may not like some of the things they do or say or whatever, some of their actions, but I still love them. I still want the best for them. And if they need help, and even if they don't ask, I will help them. That's what being a good neighbor is all about. It really is. Things to think about. And I'm not trying to show off. I'm not trying to brag. That's because I'm not getting into details on that. But, building a spiritual relationship is the opposite of feeding our addictions to sin. And it can really help counter it as well. Keeping in prayer, reading your Bible, learning about the Bible, learning the context and the history of it all has been, and I haven't gotten to do a lot of that lately. I did last year and earlier this year, which was really fun and really interesting. I still try to, there's this one YouTuber, haven't seen a new video from him in a while, the 10-minute Bible hour guy, Matt Whitman. Just hilarious, uses pop culture references. He went to seminary, I believe. If you're interested in this kind of stuff, he does this better than I do. I really enjoy him. If I don't know if he checks me out or not, probably not. But dude, I just gave you a free plug. Learning, reading, praying, building, and growing in a spiritual manner as our relationship with Christ and God grows. And it is like a building. It is like a building, stacking and stacking and stacking things up. And should the foundation be? With God, with Him first, with Christ on the bottom, and we build that relationship with Him like a building, like a well-built tower. And I kind of wonder if that's the foundation in His parable is really talking about, because most of Jesus's parables were all of a spiritual nature. And I'm sure it was. And that's a good parable to try to look up yourself. I'll say that's your homework, is to look up Jesus's parable of the. Oh crap! I gotta go on that, and I better go. Thanks for watching. I'll finish this next time, and we'll see you next time. Have a blessed night. Thanks for watching.